brides and grooms, wedding cake toppers. Do 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 do. This is what happens when I'm left alone with my own devices. Actually, that happens a lot. So, this video is actually going to be kind of it is one of my, like, devil fruit invention videos that I've done before. This one is going to be more on the gimmicky side than it is more on the, like, serious, like, battle application sides. As you've seen from the title and the thumbnail, this is going to involve a wedding-themed devil fruit. So for context in my life, the week that this video will be going up, my eldest niece will be getting married. Very much congratulations to her and her, well, fiance at the time that I am recording this, and husband by, like, the end of the week that this goes up. To them, not saying their names for privacy purposes, but congratulations to them. I wish them a very wonderful wedding and a very happy and wonderful marriage. Because sometimes you can have a really great wedding and not the best marriage. So, they've known each other since high school. We really like him. He's great for her. She's great for him, vice versa. His family really likes her, so we're really good on this. We're very much happy for them, and I get to help with doing the flowers for the wedding, so that's fun. The week that this will be going up will be the wedding, so my best hope is that there's no chapter review I have to do that week, because that would land on the Thursday or Friday before the wedding, depending on how everything lands. My other best bet is that it's hopefully going to be a break week. So I don't have to worry about that, but if so, we'll see how the chapter lands based on between wedding stuff and other stuff for me to get that done. But wedding will take priority that week, so this will either go up on the Monday that the wedding is, of the week the wedding is happening, or like the Thursday or Friday right before the wedding. That is the intention there. I have a Disney shirt representation here of an actual Disney couple that is married, because Ariel and Eric get married at the end of the movie, and Ariel is also, like, the only canonical Disney princess to have a child, which is good. Okay, so this is going to be a wedding-themed devil fruit. The wedding no mi, or the Kekkon-Kekkon no mi, is kind of how it comes out. I did Google to see if anyone had come up with something similar to this, and there was another one that I found that I will link in the description, but it doesn't do the same things that this one does, that, like, the one that I made does. It has different properties for how they are using it. So, this devil fruit, to be clear, is more meant as, like, a gimmick-style devil fruit. And it is actually kind of based on the Ope-Ope no mi, on Law's devil fruit. And you'll see why in a moment. So, I obviously, as I have done with all of these, I made it out of perler beads. So it is a cherry-based devil fruit. So it is, you know, it's kind of based on, you know, the Memo no mi that I have here, Boa's Hancock's fruit. You know, for that setup, and the fact that it is, you know, I don't think we've had any other devil fruits that are, like, based on cherries, so I wanted to go with something that, like that, and cherries are, like, you know, two things entwined. So I have this, you know, black and white hearts, you know, hearts in the middle, it's connected by stems with rings at the top, it's like the stems. I wanted to tie something with, like, the red string of fate in here, because that's something that's very important in Japanese cultures, Japanese culture, and I think other Asian cultures as well. So the string, when I put the tag on this, will probably be a red string to tie into that. So we have this for what it looks like. Going into its abilities. So this is kind of where it starts to be based off of the Ope-Ope no mi. So obviously the way that Law's devil fruit works is that he is able to activate it with room, and then it sets up this area of effect, essentially. This, you know, if you want to go with, like, Jujutsu Kaisen references, domain expansion. And, it sets up this domain in which, Law can use his ability. So that is kind of where this kind of concept comes from. The person who eats the devil fruit, I have labeled them the quote-unquote priest in this scenario. Priest, pastor, a bishop, priestess, whatever it is you want to refer to them as based on, like, your culture or your religion. Or I guess in the case of, for like non-religious stuff, the judge, in terms of like the person who is kind of in charge of the wedding to agree in like in conducting the ceremony. That type of thing. So that is the person who is the wielder of the devil fruit. They hold kind of that position. And the way that they activate the area is instead of room, like Law does, it is chapel, is like the activation word. Because like lots of chapel or temple or something like that based around like your like religious beliefs, something like that. Your religious beliefs or like just kind of your association with like where a wedding would be, type of a thing. So, like, those types of activation words, similar to how Law has the Ope-Ope no Mi with room, is kind of where that part comes from. From there are various other effects that, like, with Law, he has his radio knife and, a bunch of these other, scan and shambles and, heart swap and different things like that he is able to do within the domain of his room. As we see, put on shown quite well during Punk Hazard and during Dressrosa and during the fight with Big Mom and Kaido. For like how we see Law use his devil fruit and a taste of it at Sabaody. By the way, I was explaining the concept of what the Ope-Ope no Mi does to my nephew, and without trying to give away the whole concept of what it is, because like he's still working through One Piece, and the last I checked, he was getting to like all of the a bunch of the filler arcs right after Alabasta before they hit Jaya. I told him, you'll hit canon again when a ship falls from the sky, and he's like, what? I was like, that's all I'm telling you. You'll hit canon again when a ship falls from the sky. That's when it's canon again, essentially. When you hit more canon material. So I was kind of giving like a rough idea of what the Ope-Ope no Mi does as like an area of effect type devil fruit for when I was kind of trying to explain this to him. From there, so you are the priest or priestess or judge or pastor or however you want to put it based around your setup. And then you have chapel, so you now have your domain within you can use your ability. And just like with the Ope-Ope no Mi, the domain area is based around how much stamina you have. And how we know that Law, when he makes the giant room in order to during the fight with Doflamingo, when they're on top of, I believe it's on top of the King's Plateau during Dressrosa, Law makes the room that's so big that way Doflamingo can't even see where it ends, and that really was draining on Law. So that is something similar here, where you can make this domain very large, this chapel designated area very large. It just depends on how much stamina you have and how much you're willing to put into it. Generally, like for example, when we see Law use his ability, it's generally only a couple of, not even like a kilometer, but like a couple of yards and like in given direction, a couple 100 feet maybe, give or take, out from him in any given direction, based around what he's trying to do. We kind of see that at Punk Hazard when he's dealing with Smoker and the Marines when they first show up there. So we get some of that. So this would be something similar to that. You can set it up that way. And then from there is where it gets into other things that like tie into aesthetics or things that are generally associated with a wedding. So, and some of these are just like, I was like sitting with my mom trying to shoot off some different things that are like involved in a wedding. Either characters within the wedding. I was thinking of having something in here where they could designate someone like the bride and the groom. And that could still be done, but you know, I wasn't sure if I wanted to have that be part of the setup or not. But the first one that we kind of came up with is ring bearer as like one of the effects that it can have. And the setup for this is that it makes it that the priest can now designate someone or something as the ring. Not the one ring to rule them all. We're not going up against Sauron, but as in the ring, as in like this very important or valuable, either emotionally valuable or physically valuable object, and be able to like see who is holding it at any given time. So generally during a wedding ceremony, two of the most important objects are of course the rings, and you know, those are either carried up by the ring bearer on the little pillow, or they are held by the best man and the maid of honor respectively, you know, for the bride and the groom. Based around that. So there's that concept there, and you're able to designate someone or something as the ring, based around like, oh, there's this object that I need to find, or I need to track where this object is going to go within this area. So set up the chapel and then activate ring bearer, and you're able to then like track where this object or this person has gone. Then we have Flower Girl, and my niece is going to have one of our cousins on my mom's side, one of our younger cousins on my mom's side, her grandma's side, be the Flower Girl at her wedding. I don't know who they're going to have be the ring bearer yet. Her fiance might have a younger cousin that we might have that might be the ring bearer. I'm not sure yet, because we don't have any like younger male cousins on either side of like my family, on my dad's side or mom's side, that could be the ring bearer. That she would be close enough to want to ask. But Flower Girl, I kind of thought of as like, okay, well, generally at the wedding, or at weddings, even if they're not like in a church or something like that, they'll generally have like a Flower Girl who's, you know, supposed to walk down the aisle ahead of the bride and like drop, you know, the flower petals on, you know, on the aisle. So I'm like, okay, what is a function that could work with? And I said, well, it is technically setting a path that the bride will go down, that the bride and the bridesmaids and such will walk down. So I'm like, okay, how about this? Flower Girl, when you activate it, it allows you to make an aisle visible to either just yourself or to other people that can lead you to a certain place within the chapel. So it's like, okay, and I had the thought of like, well, if you're in a maze of some kind or in a building that you're not familiar with, and you need to be able to find the exit or an escape route or something like that, you can activate your chapel and then use Flower Girl. It will show you an aisle, the best path to be able to get out of that building. Even if you've never been in this building before in your life, and like you were like captured and brought in here and you don't know where you are in the building itself, this path would be able to help you with that, is what I thought there. Then we get into the one that is more like definitely like a wedding that has like multiple functions here. So we have the vows. And the vows, I was going to have kind of set up of like a couple of different ways. The first one is that it can be used to perform actually binding marriage vows on fully willing people, on a fully willing couple. So this would be like a genuine, like, you know, you're actually performing this thing at a wedding. You know, there's a legitimate bride and groom, or two brides, two grooms, whatever, the people who are getting married. And, you know, so you have this set up, and you are going through, and, you know, you are the designated priest, or whatever the case may be, and, like, a combatant priest would be like, this would actually, like, okay, to be fair, if Kuma didn't have the pawpaw fruit, which I made at the same time that I made this, If Kuma didn't have the pawpaw fruit, this devil fruit would actually kind of be like a good one for him to have. Because, like, he is a priest. He is a pastor in the Sorbet Kingdom. You know, for a good chunk of, like, his young life. That is this role that he holds. Is this pastor, you know, Pastor Kuma, as they have him set up there. And so, like, that would be, like, a good setup there, because, like, Kuma would not put these vows on someone who did not want them. And that is kind of one of the side effects of this. So, is, like, you can actually perform, like, the legitimate marriage vows, you know, like, what's written, you know, you'll honor thy wife, to honor thy husband, you know, all of that, you know, all of that set up there. So, like, you would have that side of things. So, like, setting up those actually binding marriage vows that way. The other side of it is that you can make a binding promise between two or more fully willing people. And I have it stipulated in here that this is the only effect that requires that all of those participating in it are fully willing, since it is binding. Because we know that if there was some effed up villain in the One Piece world, antagonist, whatever, who got their hands on this devil fruit and used it, they would force, you know, whoever to make whatever number of deals with them that would put them in the benefactor situation and force the other person to use it. So they are fully willing. So they can't be coerced, they can't be forced, they can't be blackmailed into doing it, or whatever variation of that. It has to be something that they are fully willing to do in making these vows. So that's part of it. Next up, we have guest book, which is just kind of a fun thing, because, like, you know, lots of weddings have, like, you know, the guest books for, you know, the guests to sign and everything else like that. So we have guest book, which essentially just makes a list of whoever is in the chapel. And then even if they are in some type of a disguise. So, like, for example, Bon Clay shows up at this wedding and he's disguised as someone else. Now, you know, Bon Clay or whoever else may have the Mane name, like Higurashi or whatever. Higurashi, whatever. Shows up at this wedding and they are disguised as someone else. And then, the wielder of the devil fruit uses guest book, and it literally just makes a list of whoever is at the wedding. And it can, like, physically form into a book. And, like, for purposes of, like, just fun thing, it's like, oh yeah, this forms into, like, a legitimate book, and then, like, you can, like, then give that to, like, whoever, you know, the bride and groom for performing an actual wedding has just, like, a list of the people who were at their wedding, essentially. Type of a thing in that regard for who showed up and who didn't show up. But it also allows it so you're able to then see if there is someone there who's not supposed to be there. So it's like, you know, you just, like, scan through the list to make sure that there's nobody there who's, you know, uninvited or is pretending to be somebody else. So it's like if Bon Clay showed up at, like, this wedding and he's disguised as, like, you know, Nami or whatever to sneak into the wedding. And it's, like, going through listed on the thing and blah, blah, blah. Who's this Bantam of the Wild? I don't know that person. And they're, like, looking around and, like, it lists disguised as, you know, Nami, cat burglar Nami, whatever. And, like, you look around, you find them, it's just like, there they are. It's like, I don't know who these people are. Who's this? Type of a thing there. This would also be a very good use if you are someone who is a spy, or if you're trying to find a spy, or something along those lines. That would be a way there. Next up, we have champagne fountain, is how I put it here. Because lots of weddings will have, you know, wine or champagne or whatever. And champagne fountain, the effect is, and this is very similar to something that Brooke does already with one of his songs, is that it makes those in the chapel feel like they are drunk. So this would be very similar to how, like, with Brooke, when he plays, like, his like, party song or whatever, his party music, when he uses his soul powers, it makes, like, the opponents seem like they're drunk and everything. So this is essentially, like, a very similar thing here. Obviously, devil fruit rules apply, hockey rules apply. If you're someone who has, like, a higher level of hockey, strong enough hockey or whatever, you are able to resist this stuff. You are able to, not, well, you can't resist like the guest book thing, but you can resist like the champagne fountain setup. You know, that type of a thing. So it's like, maybe you'll get slightly buzzed, but you're not going to be drunk. Although, to be fair, I wonder if Kaido would just have someone have this effect going on him at all times, so he just always feels like he's drunk. That would be funny. Next up, I have speeches and toasts, is the way that it's here. And this ability would essentially allow two different effects as well, similar to like the vows setup. So the first one is that, you know, at lots of weddings and stuff, you know, with the receptions, there are speeches, you know, the best man, the maid of honor, the father of the bride, father of the groom, however much setup you want to go there, for whoever's supposed to give the speeches. And in this regard, it can help the person, you know, you can use this effect on the person ahead of time, and, you know, whoever's giving the speeches, and it can help them, you know, write and then perform this, you know, and give this very, very, you know, with confidence, this very great speech about, like, you know, the bride or the groom, you know, set up there. So it's like a good way of instilling confidence with that, so it helps them be able to deliver the type of speech they want to deliver. Particularly, this would be very useful for someone who has, like, stage fright. So that's a possibility. Because I get that. Trust me, I get that. So this would be like a very useful thing to use on someone who has like stage fright and stuff like that, and they just want, or like they're just really nervous about this setup because it's like their best friend is getting married, and like for example, with One Piece characters. Okay, this may actually work. So, for a couple of the weddings we know about in One Piece, we know that Beji married Chiffon. And probably, like, Gotti or Vito were probably, like, his best men, because, like, best man or whatever. And they probably gave, like, a speech at the wedding. So, this may have helped them have the confidence to give the speech at the wedding. And then you turn that around, and then later on, I have no idea who would have been, like, Chiffon's maid of honor at her. Had Lola been there, Lola would have been Chiffon's maid of honor. That is completely and utterly true. We know that. Maybe Pudding was the maid of honor at Beji and Chiffon's wedding. I don't know. We don't know whoever else Chiffon was particularly close to, besides possibly Pudding, given the circumstances of what happens. But at Lola and Gotti's wedding, I would quite assume that, like, Chiffon was the maid of honor and that Beji was, like, the best man. But maybe one of them was just really, really nervous, so this would have helped them with being able to give that speech. Or since Pound was there, help him be able to say what he wanted to say to Lola and Chiffon all of their lives, and he didn't have the chance to get to do it, and it helps him fully have that confidence to do it. So that's kind of like where that idea comes from. For like the fun side of that. Now we get into more of the kind of, I guess, battle side of things for the toasts and speeches. So this one, the secondary effect, would be able to make it that way anyone who is there for nefarious purposes, nefarious reasons, would reveal themselves and their intentions. So this would have been a really good effect to be able to use on Kanjuro. Like, just someone on Whitebeard's crew, not on Whitebeard's crew, someone who's like a friend of Toki and Oden who lives in Wano or something like that. One of the other scabbards has it, something. They use this effect at some point in time, and Kanjuro just reveals the fact that he is the effing traitor the entire time. And then that would have solved so many problems. So that would have been good there. I was trying to think if there's really been any other situations. Others would have been really good to use against York for Vegapunk. With that traitor set up there. Other various times that this probably would have just been useful going into various situations. If there's this would have been good to use against Virgo on Punk Hazard and stuff like that for him, like revealing his status, or even prior to that using this on him to reveal his status as like a member of the Don Quixote family, and this traitor amongst the Marines who's feeding information to Doflamingo. So there's a lot of that stuff there. For like those various types of traitors. He's on Blackbeard so much earlier to like reveal his intentions of like, getting his hands on this devil fruit and then causing so many problems. That type of stuff would be useful there. Reveals like the traitor within the area and their intentions, and it's like it forces them to say it. To be fair, if you had high enough hockey, you might be able to kind of resist it, but it would be like very obvious that you're like resisting saying something type of a thing. So it's a little bit like a truth serum effect there. Next up, this one is just literally just a gimmick. Gimmick part of this devil fruit that I just wanted to throw out here. Wedding cake. Big Mom. This would just straight up allow the priest to just like create like a wedding cake based on what like the couple wants, or what they want, that would fit into this situation. So like Sanji would be interested in this part of the devil fruit, but I don't think it would be something that he would be like, oh, I want to use this all the time. He would want to test himself against this devil fruit to see if he could outpace what this part of the devil fruit would be able to do. Him and Chiffon and Pudding would like want to test themselves against this to see how well they would do. So there's that. So I just like that idea of like, and cake type of a thing. It's like, here, cake, just pops out of nowhere. Next up we have hitting the dance floor, because lots of weddings have like a dance floor and you're gonna go out and dance. Bride and groom's first dance, mother-son dance, father-daughter dance, the last dance, various other dances that they do that are, various theme, like have like all of the married couples come out to the floor and have them dance as like they count down count up the amount of time everybody's been married. About a year ago, when we were out in Broken Bow for my cousin Alex's wedding, a year ago as of recording this, like a year and more ago, by the time this goes up, we were out in Broken Bow for my cousin Alex's wedding, and they did this, and the ones who ended up being the ones who were still dancing on the dance floor when the song was all finished, after they've counted up 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever, the ones who were still dancing were his grandparents on his mother's side. That still alive, still married, all of that. So ones who've been married the longest there, and the newest, newest couple. So that was kind of like a nice thing they did there. So it's just like hitting the dance floor. What it does here, in the context of this setup, is that it makes those in the chapel start to dance, and it can either be like party type dancing, like just fun dancing, or it can be like ballroom style, like slow paced type of a thing, that type of dancing. And this would just be like a good way of like just either just everybody gets to have fun and dance type of a thing, or help the bride and groom want to have like the dance that they really want to be able to perform and show and everything like that, even if they don't quite have the skills for it. And then like I guess like kind of like the battle side capabilities of this is it literally just makes your like opponents start dancing, so it's harder for them to fight. Is essentially what happens there. And then the last one that I have on here for like this effect that it can do is tossing the bouquet and or garter. So lots of weddings have it where like the bride will toss the bouquet to all of like the single women behind her, and whoever catches it is supposed to be the next one to get married. And then the groom will do the same with like taking off the garter off the bride's leg and then throwing it to all of the single men, and then whoever the one who catches it there is supposed to be like the next guy to get married. Now, to be fair, if you planned this right and you know that there's two people who are engaged and will be getting married next, you can like try to get it where they're the ones who catch the respective items, type of a thing there. So there's that. But the way that I have it set up here is that, like, it essentially makes, like, your enemies throw their weapons up into the air and away from them. So, again, this would be something that, like, if you have high enough hockey level, like, this isn't going to work on Kaido. He's not going to chuck his Kanabo away. It's not going to work on, like, Shanks, and he'll chuck Griffin away. Mihawk's not going to just, like, throw Yoru away or something like that. it's, you know, it's not going to work on someone who has like a high enough level hockey and a high enough, you know, the willpower type of a thing. So it's not really going to work that way. But like for like more of like the riffraff, like a lot of like the beast pirates who are just like the waiters and the pleasures and stuff like that, who are just not that strong, don't have really good hockey. They just like chuck their weapons away when this would be activated or whatever. Or like just some of Big Mom's soldiers and whatever who really don't have wills of their own. They were just chucked away. That type of a thing. The Germa soldiers possibly would be affected by this, since they don't really seem to have wills of their own, since they are just programmed to follow Judge's orders and the son, you know, his children's orders. So it'd be something like that, where they would just like chuck their weapons away. You know, and it's just like, okay, now they're defenseless, attack now they're defenseless and dancing, attack them now type of a thing, and they're drunk, so just go. Is kind of like what would happen there. Is just kind of like the thought that I had for that. That's pretty much all the effects that I kind of came up with for this, simply just because of I thought they were fun. I thought they fit with like the wedding theme. You know, I liked the idea. It's a cute little, you know, it's a gimmicky devil fruit. I haven't really done one of those too much for a while. I've done a lot of like zones, or like this would obviously be a Paramecia, because it's not like a wedding is not like a natural element that you can turn into, and it's not like a creature that you can turn into. Although Bridezilla would be an interesting one to have as like a devil. How does Bridezilla work? You turn into a Godzilla-like female creature in a wedding dress. Okay. That would be interesting. So there's a lot of like that set up there. In that regard, that's just kind of where that came from. I just like, it was a fun idea. I wanted to make something like that. It's just a cute way of like kind of, you know, homage to weddings. And it does seem like something that could possibly legitimately work within the One Piece world. Because like it's not, I wouldn't say it's as overpowered as like the Ope-Ope fruit, simply because of the fact that I can't like swap someone's personalities around. I can't pop their heart or another organ out of their body and hold on to it the way that, you know, they did with like Smoker's heart and Caesar's heart and stuff like that. Like they can't do that. And like Monette's heart, all that stuff, they can't do that. That's not the way this devil fruit is designed. But I liked that idea of like coming up with like just like a fun little gimmicky devil fruit that would be just like a cute thing to have. So that's what I had here for this. As I said, by the time this video goes up, it will be the week of my niece and her fiance's wedding. As I said, I wish them the best of luck when it comes to the wedding, and the best of luck when it comes to the marriage. We'll see from there. We'll see how tired I am that week when it comes to stuff. And however that lands for me being able to do the chapter review, if there is one this week, or if there was, or whatever. Which at the time I'm recording this, I don't know. This is like 2 or 3 months out from the wedding that I'm recording this. Brenda is not here today. She is at the groomer getting all pretty, and I'll go get her later. So that's what I have here. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Also, this will be going up right before Halloween because it's a Halloween-themed wedding for them. So, happy Halloween as well. Bye!